In the interrogation room of the FBI, Hutch uses a lighter to cauterize one of his many wounds. A wolf appears next to him, and the FBI agents wonder who they are. This all started a few weeks ago. Hutch happily lives with his wife Becca, their daughter Sammy, and their son Brady. However, his work life is much darker. He's an assassin for the government, so he often has to leave in the middle of the night to go on missions full of pain, blood, and gunshots. This causes him to miss many family meals and events, so Becca is growing more and more frustrated with their relationship every day. On the days Hutch is home, he can feel the distance between him and his family. One morning Becca mentions that summer break is coming, so Hutch promises to make plans after an assignment today. A frustrated Becca is about to say something, but she decides to hold back and leaves for work. Later Hutch waits at a hotel reception until his targets enter the elevator. He follows them in after putting up the out-of-service sign. With quick movements, he steals a gun from one of the men and starts fighting them hand to hand, having to deal with multiple attacks at the same time in the small elevator cabin. A guy tries to call the emergency line, but Hutch stops him and uses the phone as a weapon too. After lots of punches and kicks, Hutch brings everyone down and takes a data card from the guy's pocket. Suddenly a gangster tries to open fire, but Hutch quickly disassembles the gun and kills him with it. Afterward Hutch tries to leave through the kitchen, only to find a bunch of men waiting for him with guns. The group opens fire, so Hutch hides behind the furniture and finds a gas tank, which he throws at the attackers to kill them with just one explosion. Next Hutch goes to the parking lot, where he encounters a gang with machetes. He improvises a weapon with his belt and a pipe he rips off a wall before he jumps into the fight. These guys aren't very good fighters, so Hutch easily brings them down, but he gets several wounds in the process. After the mission, Hutch goes to see his handler Barber to hand him the data card. Once he's confirmed that the data is in order, Barber tells Hutch that his debt just went down by $800,000 and he has $30 million left. It turns out Hutch burned the fortune of a Russian gangster and he's been paying it back. The next assignment is ready, but Hutch says that he needs a break. Barber allows him to have a vacation, yet he points out that this job is in Hutch's nature. Later Hutch thinks about a sticker on the gangster's van promoting a place called Plummerville, which he visited as a kid. He shows an old ad video to his family, announcing he's taking them there for the summer. Nobody is excited about this place, so Hutch gives a speech about making memories together to change their minds. On the day of the trip, the family stops at a retirement home to pick up Hutch's father David, who is a former FBI agent. They actually have a good time traveling together to the point of singing. When they arrive at the hotel, the kids aren't excited to learn that they have to share. David agrees to give Brady his room and he'll sleep in the old lodge. Becca isn't impressed by the couple's room but tries to stay positive. Sadly, when the family tries to go to the water park, they learn it's closed for the day because there's been an accident. As compensation, they're given coupons for hot dogs. They go to the local diner and Hutch gets nostalgic about the days he spent here with his brother. While lost in thought, he accidentally stares at Sheriff Abel, who gets offended and gives him a warning. Afterward, the family goes to the arcade. Hutch tries to connect with Brady, who doesn't want to discuss his personal life and is more interested in impressing girls. He's won so many tickets in the games that he gives some of them to the girls before exchanging the rest for a plushie for his sister. A boy named Max thinks Brady was trying to steal his girlfriend and asks him to apologize, but Brady refuses and insults him. Max then takes Sammy's plushie and destroys it, so Brady punches him. A fight ensues and the security guard has to run to separate the boys. Max throws a ball intending to hurt Brady, but Hutch catches it just in time. The security guard yells at Hutch for having unruly kids and they start arguing, so Becca interrupts them and announces they're leaving. On their way out, Sammy picks up the pieces of her plushies and the guard slaps her on the head. Hutch is furious and tries to keep it in, but after just a few steps out, he says he forgot his phone and goes back inside. He kicks the front doors and punches the rude guard in the face. Another guard tries to intervene, so Hutch throws him into a claw machine. A client insults him and tries to hit him with a hammer from a game, but the rope is too short. Using the claw from the machine, Hutch strikes him down before pushing him against the whack-a-mole to beat him up with the hammer. The rude guard comes back for more, so Hutch throws him on a pinball machine and slaps him a few times like he did with Sammy. He doesn't stop until Becca calls him out. Brady and Hutch are arrested and Becca has to argue with the officers, trying to claim it was self-defense. Hutch scolds Brady for defending his sister with violence and Brady points out the hypocrisy. Brady thinks that his dad's fight was awesome, but Hutch denies it, saying he wants his son to be better than him. They're interrupted when Hutch is taken to the sheriff's office and he meets Wyatt, the man who runs this town and Max's dad. Usually tourists get one free pass, but Wyatt is very angry because Max got an injury during the fight. Hutch explains what the guard did to his daughter and asks him what he would have done, so Wyatt agrees to let the whole family go. However, Abel is still annoyed and secretly orders his men to get rid of them. The ride to the hotel is silent and awkward. Once they're in their rooms, Becca scolds Hutch for what he did, pointing out that Brady is becoming too aggressive because of him. She notices that Hutch has brought an extra bag and thinks he's hiding work stuff, but when she opens it she finds a bottle of wine from the place and year where they met. She cries as she hugs him and apologizes. While they enjoy the wine, Becca admits she knew he was dangerous the moment they met because he'd been covered in blood. The next day David continues to relax in the old lodge while the family has lots of fun at the amusement park. Hutch notices that there's a cop taking pictures of them but doesn't say anything to avoid ruining the mood. Later they go to the pier and Hutch notices a cop approaching with some thugs. He sends his family on a boat ride but doesn't join them with the excuse of an upset stomach. Then Hutch gets on an empty boat and the men follow him, however some tourists come aboard too. Once the boat takes off, the thugs stay at the back and tell Hutch that they want him gone. Hutch tries to make them see reason but a man tries to tackle him, so he defends himself and a fight ensues. The tourists at the front have their headphones on so they don't notice anything. A man smashes Hutch's face on a metal bar so he grabs a life jacket to fight back, using it as a shield when an enemy tries to stab him. He breaks the arm with a knife and throws another guy off the boat, but he hangs onto the edge. An opponent tries to hit him with a pole but Hutch dodges him and the cop gets hit instead. Hutch then traps him with a life buoy and repeatedly punches him in the face. When the man on the edge tries to climb back, Hutch hits him with the pole before throwing it into the water. Another man tries to choke him so Hutch breaks a bottle on his head. The police officer comes after him and Hutch tries to calm him down, only for the cop to cut off his pinky. It falls into the water and is immediately eaten by a fish. While Hutch is distracted, a guy punches him and causes him to fall into the water too. The thugs then yell at the cop, saying they were hired to scare off a simple tourist but Hutch is obviously a trained man. At that moment Hutch climbs back on the boat, so angry that he won't be holding back anymore. First he grabs the cop and smashes his head on the ceiling. Next he breaks a duck statue and uses the head as a weapon. An enemy tries to stab him but Hutch breaks his hand. When he finds the anchor, he stabs a man in the back and activates the anchor system to throw him into the water. Lastly he repeatedly punches the cop's face while telling him that he's on vacation. Later Hutch calls his adopted brother Harry and tells him that Plummerville isn't as friendly as he remembers. Harry explains that the place is an old trade route and their dad took them there back in the day because he'd been on a mission, not on a vacation. All the cops there are corrupt and working with the syndicate. Next Hutch calls Barber, who confirms that Plummerville is a back road for all kinds of illegal trading. The crime boss in charge is a woman named Lendina. She's incredibly dangerous, so Barber advises Hutch to de-escalate. Meanwhile Wyatt and Abel are getting some illegal cargo ready for shipment. One of the boxes has a blinking screen because Wyatt has a plan to get Lendina in trouble. After Wyatt leaves, Abel gets a call from his men telling him that Hutch isn't just some tourist. At a casino, Lendina is pretending to play cards with a client only to suddenly stab his hand. Then she slashes the dealer's throat and stabs the client in the eye before checking his ear. It turns out the guy had an earpiece that helped him cheat, which is why Lendina is so angry. The client's accomplices try to run away but Lendina's henchwomen quickly bring them down. Then Lendina tells the guards to leave no witnesses and burn it all down, so they open fire to kill every person in the room. Afterward Lendina calls Wyatt, who reminds her that today's shipment will be the last because his father's debt will be finally paid off. However Lendina tells him that his debt will never be over and that his father died because he was distracted. Then she calls Abel and asks him to remind Wyatt who he works for. At the park, Sammy is excited to see some wild animals, including a cute wolf. However the handler is very rude so the family keeps moving. They want to reunite with Hutch but can't find him, so they return to the hotel. They get nervous when someone starts aggressively knocking on his door but it's just David, who has brought dinner and claims that Hutch is running late. In the meantime Abel kidnaps Max and is discussing a plan with his men to send him to Lendina. They're interrupted by Hutch, who is pouring gasoline over a pile of money. He takes out a lighter and points at the barrels behind him, saying he can make the entire room blow up and Lendina would be mad that her shipment is gone. However he won't do it if Abel promises not to bother his family anymore. Abel is furious but doesn't want to take the risk and takes the deal. When Hutch is about to leave, Max rolls out of a van as a way to ask for help. Hutch stays silent and leaves the building to get in his car. He barely drives for 2 blocks before he goes back. A vicious fight immediately begins and some of the men run away. Hutch steals a gun and fights the group with both shots and hand-to-hand combat. A man is thrown at the van's window, startling Max. A thug manages to capture Hutch and tries to push him against an electric saw only for Hutch to bring the guy's head into the saw first. Then Hutch frees Max and they try to leave. Abel opens fire but he fails the only shot he has. Hutch shoots at a lamp just to keep him back, but the sparks fall on the pile of money and the gas immediately catches on fire. Max and Hutch run out of the building while the flames quickly spread, hitting the barrels and causing a huge explosion. Soon Lendina learns about the incident and sees Hutch's face on the security cameras. Her team has already tracked him down and found his family in the hotel. Abel calls her to try to warn her, but Lendina just thinks he's an exaggerating idiot. Later at the lodge, Hutch reunites with his family. Brady is tense when he sees Max but the boys shake hands. Becca cries when she realizes Hutch is leaving for another mission, since he promised he wouldn't work during their vacation. Hutch explains it wasn't on purpose and admits he has no control over his job, so Becca should leave with the children. However she refuses and tells him to fix this. Afterward Hutch goes to see Wyatt, who immediately attacks him. Hutch dodges every blow while trying to explain he's rescued Max, but Wyatt won't listen and traps him against a fence. Hutch hits him to finally calm him down and explain everything. Then Wyatt shares a drink to thank Hutch and tells him that Lendina killed his dad. He inherited the debt in the crime business but he doesn't want it, and most importantly he doesn't want Max to get mixed in it. Lendina is gathering a whole team right now to get revenge, so they need a plan. Wyatt gives Hutch all the weapons he has and agrees to close the water park for the day to use it as a battleground. Harry and David soon arrive to help them set up traps on the games all over the park, and Hutch frees the wolf from the cage. When they're done, Hutch shares his worries about Brady becoming like him, since he and Harry were obviously affected by their dad's job. However, David says they already are better men than him. At the lodge, Becca notices that David left a dart gun behind and tells the kids she's going on a walk. In the evening, Lendina and her team arrive at the park. They wait outside while Abel approaches Hutch and Wyatt, hoping to get them to surrender. However, the duo wants to fight. Abel makes a gesture to indicate he failed and tries to return to the car, but Lendina orders her men to shoot him down. Hutch and Wyatt run to hide while the team bursts into the park. Wyatt uses the hammer on one of the games to activate the first trap, which makes a bunch of mines hidden in the ground blow up under the men's feet. Hutch pretends to get on one of the rides and tricks the pursuers by making them follow a doll. Then he turns on the machine and the moving cabin immediately brings down the attackers. Next, Hutch sets off a few explosives hidden in the carnival booths as a distraction before he comes out with open fire, killing several more men. When Hutch runs out of bullets, he hides in the House of Mirrors. The men follow him inside and keep opening fire, but they're just breaking mirrors because of Hutch's reflection. Suddenly a mirror opens and reveals an explosive that soon blows up, bringing them all down. As Hutch tries to reach the next trap, an opponent hides behind a booth to surprise him. However, the wolf sees him and barks, so Hutch attacks first and kills the man. Meanwhile, Wyatt crosses the ball pit, and when his enemies try to follow him, they step on landmines that instantly kill them. Then Wyatt runs to the next location and a thug manages to shoot him in the leg. He hides behind a wall, and when the men try to follow him, they activate a trap that releases surfboards with blades that kill them. Hutch reaches the top of another attraction while shooting down more enemies, then he escapes by going down the water slide. A man immediately follows him, so he jumps out before reaching the end and releases some spikes to kill the guy. The team reaches the back half of the park and David opens fire with a machine gun to provide cover. Hutch keeps on shooting too and his arm gets wounded in the chaos. At the lodge, a second team gets ready to kill the family. However, Harry sneaks around in the shadows, killing them one by one with his sword. Eventually he comes out to bring down a few men in quick succession. Only the team leader is left, so Harry fights him in a vicious sword duel. At first it looks like they have similar skills, but Harry soon overpowers him and breaks his sword. The man pulls out a gun, so Harry slices it too before splitting his head in half. A thug has managed to get into the cabin and gets ready to shoot Max and Sammy, only for Brady to jump on his back. After some struggle, Brady captures the man in a chokehold and knocks him out. When Harry comes in, he says Hutch would be proud. Back in the park, Hutch finds Lendina, who sends her henchwomen after him. A new vicious fight begins and the duo manages to overpower Hutch to capture him. They hold him up while Lendina uses her knife to repeatedly slash his face. After insulting him for several minutes, she orders her guards to kill him. Suddenly Wyatt appears nearby and shoots both women in the head, so Lendina throws her knife at his chest. Then Lendina sits on top of Hutch and takes out another knife, ready to kill him. At that moment a dart hits her in the shoulder and throws her back. It turns out Becca came to help, so Lendina throws the knife at her. Becca shoots another dart that blocks the knife and stabs Lendina's eye. The rest of the crime time then surrounds them and David yells a warning, so Wyatt and the couple jump into the pool before all the explosives in the park go off at the same time. As fireworks light the sky, the couple kisses underwater. In the present, the FBI is still trying to interrogate Hutch, Becca, and the wolf. At that moment the agents receive a call and are forced to let the couple go. Later at home, the whole family enjoys the pictures of their vacation.